Symbolic of the defining event of the 20th century, the National World War II Memorial in Washington, D.C. is a monument to the spirit, sacrifice, and the commitment of the American people. The Honor Flights program was developed after the memorial was opened in 2004 to give our veterans a chance to see the memorial dedicated in their honor at no cost to them. Students at Pleasant Valley Middle School in Wichita were able to help raise extra money to send veterans on a recent flight. And they were also able to get an up-close and personal education about America's greatest generation that they couldn't learn in any classroom or textbook.
December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy. With the unbounding determination of our people, we will gain the inevitable triumph, so help us God.
They can't be paid for what they've done. There's no way to even measure up, but you know, we can at least try and do as best as we can.
They're very humble and they know what they did, but they don't realize that it's, I guess, as much of a big deal as other people do. And as we were going around, people would stop them and tell them thank you and shake their hand and how much it was appreciated. And at one point, the guy he was just like, I'm surprised that people are as appreciative as they are. And, you know, I did what I did because I had to do it.
I wanted to go because we could never repay back the World War II veterans for what they did for us. There's just nothing we can do to repay them, but just getting them to the memorial, something that we had done for them, was a big deal.
It was just overwhelming on how much has happened and what all I've gone through, and there's always more we can do, but I know that what we've done is appreciated, but what they've done is even more appreciated.
Appreciation, a word that was used over and over in reference to the veterans on this honor flight. Can we ever say thank you enough to those who have protected our freedoms in a time of complete uncertainty?
Every one of them left home not knowing if they came back the next day. And every breakfast was a blessing in their day. Our military, our current military now is standing on a platform. That platform was built in a swamp. And that swamp was earned by World War II, Korean-era veterans, and Vietnam-era veterans. We live in the greatest nation on the planet Earth because of them. And if we can't pay tribute to them, then we ourselves will be forgotten.
Spearheaded by Kansas Senator Bob Dole, the National World War II Memorial was opened on the National Mall in 2004. Honor Flights is a nationwide program developed in 2005 to send World War II veterans to Washington, D.C. to see the memorials dedicated to them at no cost to each veteran.
The Vietnam Memorial was built first, and then Korea. And as a nation that can forget things, yeah, we did it 60 years late, but the important thing to my council was that we did it. The country had a memorial, and our veterans from Kansas need to be there.
Central Prairie Resource Conservation and Development Council partnered with the Honor Flights Network to produce the Central Prairie Honor Flights Hub in Great Bend, Kansas.
We have roughly 1,000 in the database, but we know there's about 6,000 or 7,000 still alive in Kansas.
It takes a lot of resources and a lot of help to make this happen. It costs about $650 for each vet to make the trip. Middle school students raise that money and more to make this journey possible for them. But it's not just the money. Each vet needs a guardian too, something these students were happy to be as well.
We talked about going to Washington, D.C. for a week just for fun. But then Major Traeger heard of this program, and we all talked about it and felt like it would be way better, much more of an experience than just going for a week.
As we progressed, it came across our plate that some of the junior ROTC kids could do the wheelchair work, could be guardians, could go with them. And now they have an opportunity to see and grow in ways they can't even appreciate. So we said, yes, this is a big green go. They went out and raised money for themselves and their adult companions that supervise them and World War II veterans.
I think that they don't learn as much about American history and American military history as much as kids used to. And so this gave them just an opportunity to learn about what made our country free, through World War II, because the outcome of this could have been very different had we not entered the war and had these veterans not been there to win that war.
I know that there was some concerns that how could you charge America's greatest generation to a bunch of teenagers? Kids these days are so unconnected and yada, yada, yada. As we focused on that issue, it was really obvious that these JROTC kids are not the cross-sections that have purple hair and earrings and bones in their noses or whatever. These kids were squared away young kids that carry on the basics of American patriotism and the basics of American life.
It's also a unique opportunity for both young and old to mix with each other and share a glimpse into their lives for 36 hours. It took these students several months to raise enough money to make the flight.
Last summer, we did a lot of car washes for a long time, and we all got sunburnt, and that's basically how we raise most of our money, is doing car washes and bake sales and stuff like that.
In all, they raised nearly $12,000 for the 12 students and 4 veterans to fly.
What's going on this morning, we hopefully will get to Washington, D.C. by 3.5 hours.
The whole trip lasts about 36 hours. Day 1 starts at 5 a.m. at the airport. There's a certain excitement and camaraderie that builds almost immediately.
The night before we were supposed to go on the trip, I was really nervous and I was freaking out because I thought that these veterans were, going to be, they were going to be really picky and stuff like that, and I was going to do something wrong. And I was really nervous, and we got on the plane, and they were really nice. They were apologizing, and they were really excited, and so that kind of calmed me down a little bit.
The night before, I was kind of a little bit panicky. I was kind of freaking out because I was all scared of what happens if I lose my veteran, or well, I wouldn't lose him, but what happens if something goes wrong.
Despite the age gap, these students quickly found common ground with the 80 to 90-year-olds.
Most of the veterans were really ornery and really funny. My veteran liked to talk about how in high school he was an ornery kid. Brittany had veterans who wanted to race her up hills. She'd be pushing a wheelchair. She had a brother and sister, and she pushed the sister in a wheelchair, and the brother would say, "I'm gonna race ya," and just take off running. And they would tell us war stories, but they would try to, add in some of their ornery times in war and things that they had done. And so I think that made it a lot easier on us to have such a relatable topic, something ornery and stuff. The trip up there was my first plane ride ever. I was absolutely terrified. And as we were walking down the aisles looking for places to sit, this man looked at me and his wife, and they could tell I was really nervous, and they asked if it was my first plane ride. And when I agreed, they told me to sit down, and they were going to help me through it because they'd flown all over the world. And so I sat down, and at first he looked at me and he said, "Wait, I got to see if you're cute enough to sit next to me." And he was like, "All right, you can sit here." And they talked about how if I freaked out too bad on the plane ride up, he was either going to have to slap me out of it or kiss me out of it. And I was like, okay, got this. But his wife actually held my hand the whole way up. I was that scared. Shelly sat a couple seats in front of me, and she could see me, and she'd flown before, so she thought it was funny. And I think in that moment I realized it was going to be a really great trip, just because just 2 people had made my day already, and it was 7 in the morning.
Miami International, you're on a flight this morning to Baltimore, Washington. We're happy you're flying with us. We look forward to having you.
Well, you feel pretty small in many ways. It's for me, I don't know a soul that's on the plane, and just to get dumped off at the airport and say, "There it is."
You didn't have to go far to hear veterans talk about their service.
Mixed emotions, I guess you might say. It's not going to bother me, I don't think. I was not in a combat unit, but I was in a combat zone for 11 months.
With their beverage carts.
I could see down the driveway and see the bodies stacked there like cordwood. But that's as close as I got to in the camp. But I could see the inmates standing down there in the street. Looked like they was in pajamas, so thin I don't think they'd cast a shadow. It was pitiful looking things. They just stand there, just nothing to do, looking at you like, what are you going to do to help us? It's a pitiful sight to see.
I have seen everyone from the guy that was at Iwo Jima and saw the flag on the hill to the guy that was in the boat next to Tom Hanks's boat, if you watch Saving Private Ryan.
And just the learning experience. I mean, these people know so much more than our textbooks do.
World War II veterans, they don't talk about their experiences in World War II. Yeah, when it was over for them. And they went right back to work, raising their family and being productive citizens. But now they had an opportunity to talk a little bit about their experiences in World War II. And that's important to them because they realize now that they're coming to the end of their time, and a lot of people don't know what they did.
Once the plane landed in Baltimore, it felt like it was day 2 of the trip. Coming up after the break, we'll show you how honor flights makes the trip for these veterans even a little more special.